If you're ready to experience love and come into alignment with your beloved, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you how one twin flame couple manifested their destiny and are living out their dreams. Let's go! Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Harmony. I'm a twin flame expert helping twin flames around the globe face fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Welcome to my weekly glow show. Today we're going to talk about how to manifest your twin flame. Everyone seems to be searching, looking, and their twin is not coming to them. They're treating it as if it's in separation from them. And so I have today a couple with me that would like to share how they manifested their journey and how they have went from not just coming together, which I can't wait to hear this because I don't even know yet. So you guys, I'm going to be as surprised as you guys. But they're going to share with us how they came together, not only as twin flames on their journey, but they're actually married now. So I want to introduce to you Shan and Fonta. Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having us.
Shan and I met I think it was maybe June of 2016. I'll just give where I was coming from at that point. I had been I was coming out of an 8-year relationship that was incredibly toxic. And at that point I was 2 years into rediscovering myself. And what I was committed to at that point was being unavailable, because I was doing deep work on healing all the parts of myself that had allowed myself so willingly to walk into such an abusive relationship. So I became deeply immersed into a spiritual community here that is absolute magic. I started studying nutrition and was at the time working on my certification to become a health coach, and also helping other people on their journey towards healing the parts of themselves that had been forgotten. And so Shan, I was working at this local supplement store called Robert's Health Food Store. And Shan, Shan was new to the area. He had moved here about a couple months prior to that or something, and was just opening his practice.
Are you in Kentucky, by the way, just so I know? Are you in Kentucky? Okay.
So it was apparently, I don't remember the temperature, but Shan does. It was a hot day, and he had been driving around passing out business cards to some of the local stores just to introduce himself to the neighborhood, and reluctantly stopped at Robert's. It was going to be his last stop for the day. He was hot, he was over it, he was tired, but he came in anyway, and I happened to be working that day. And when he walked into the store, apparently I was the first thing that he noticed, and under his breath said to himself,
"Oh, I'm in trouble."
So interestingly enough, I was on all the different levels of healing that I was doing. A big chunk of that was healing my physical body from all of the ways that stress in my life had manifested in tremendous inflammation. And my mom had called me like the day before, and she said that she had this conversation with a chiropractor while she was out in California, and she said, "You need, Fonta, this is what he said. You need to find a corrective chiropractor, someone that practices the Gonstead technique," and went to Palmer. I'm like, okay, note to self. Got it. Very specific.
I need one of those right now.
So in walks Shan, and he like trots up to the counter and hands over a business card, and I'm just like, "Are you a corrective chiropractor?" And he's got this famous smirk, and he's like, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am." And he actually met every one of those credentials. So he leaves. I think he came back like a week later to get dog food. And
nutritional store?
Yeah. And then leaves again, but then the phone rings this
He didn't
time.
come to get dog food. He came to see you, right?
Right. Of all the places to get dog food, on the opposite side of town. So so the phone rings and I answer it, and he said, "Oh, is this Fonta?" I said, "Yes, it is. What can I do for you?" And he's like, so I realized I forgot something when I left the store. And I said, "And what might that be?" And he said, "Well, it's your phone number." And I told him that I don't give my phone number out. So he said, "I'm going to give you my number, and why don't you just do the right thing?" So he gave me his number, and his arrogance it caught my attention for sure. I was like, what is this guy all about? So I met him out for some drinks. I don't know if it was that night or the next night, and just spilled my guts about what I had been through over the past 10 years, and told him all about my family, and just.
I call this twin flame confessions. Yeah. It's like that vacuum of just dumping out.
And like a front row center view to my heart. And then we ended up, we left where we were, went to another little spot to have some margaritas, and ended up just making out for like 90 minutes in front of everyone. Just didn't even care. And he told me while we were sitting across from each other that he was going to take me to Italy one day. And at this point, I thought he was totally full of it and just wanted to get me home with him. But we parted our ways that night. I was still unavailable. Nice date. See you later. We talked for a little bit, just text really, for maybe a week. And then I basically told him to take care of himself, and that I was just completely unavailable, and I couldn't hold any part of this or meet any one of his desires. And I was absolutely terrified. So while that wasn't what he wanted to hear, we both had a lot of healing to do, and it was really necessary. So over the course of a year, almost an entire year goes by, and I actually worked just a couple of blocks away from where the practice is, and I would pass his practice maybe 2 times a day, 5 days a week, and I never saw him. I knew where he was, but I never saw him. So almost a year goes by, and at this point, the universe was giving me a just solid nudge to leave where I was and to do my own thing. I had become certified as a health coach. I was working independently as a rep for a medical device. I had some things that I could do to support myself, and it was time to go. So I made that decision inside my belly that I was doing it. And as soon as I did, suddenly a switch got flipped on, and all I could think about was Shan. Like, where is he? I wonder what he's doing. I wonder if he's seeing anybody. Maybe I can talk to him about like my health coaching or this other stuff. I don't know. And I was like, every day for almost a week, I was thinking about him. And during that time, I'm driving to work, and I get stopped at this stoplight directly in front of the practice. And I am the car directly before you can enter into the parking lot, and being polite, I left that space for people to get in and out. And this is a Tuesday. Tuesday, by the way, is always Shan's day off. He never went into the office, but he had some x-rays that he could analyze and decided to just do it. And so while I'm stopped at the stoplight, who do I see? Shan trotting to his truck, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening right now. I like flip down my visor, I start like fixing myself, and then he gets into his truck, bags out, and then pulls out in front of me, and I just did like a little, Miss America wave. I see him do a double take, and he's like not sure who it is at first, but figures it out, and I'd say a couple blocks down the road it took, and then he gave me a call. He still had my phone number. So it was like divine
timing, right? Divine timing. Like, you had to be ready. Based on what you're saying is, for one, he was ready, but you weren't quite in alignment with yourself, basically, right?
Exactly.
So I got to tell you this thing about the mission, flip the switch, because you needed what I call the generator to support and supply some of that energy to take your mission to the next level. Mm-hmm. So that you could align in a new and different way to support you. So yeah, go ahead. I want to finish hearing the story and kind of how the back end also, how this manifested from a standpoint of not looking, but you show up.
Well, so at that point, everything started to, our timeline has never been linear. It's like our growth and our exploration is just completely off the charts. And so like we essentially started working together and developing a romantic relationship and living together, and also my being under his chiropractic care all at once. And so there's so many layers to this. I mean, in terms of like the physical healing that I have accomplished over the past 2 years now, you know, Shan has completely restored my health in so many profound ways. And where I had been told I was going to have a very difficult time conceiving, that's now a possibility, and that's because of his hands. But so we were dating for a month, like, so this was the beginning of May, and we were dating for a month. I was still like, you know, I want to be with you every day, but no labels. Like, I can't handle the labels, but I can't be without you either. And so literally the day that I only introduced him as my boyfriend one time. And the day that I introduced him as my boyfriend, like 4 or 5 hours later, we were engaged. He had me meet him at this gun range here in town where we had gone a couple of different times just to go shoot some targets, and had me meet him there this afternoon. He had it all set up. Walked in, put my goggles on, went up to his lane, and he was letting me shoot all the bullets. Like, I was like, so like, yes, get all of them. I blew up that target. He brings it back, pulls it back up to himself, has me stand somewhere, and is changing them up. And about 7 seconds into it, I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? And then he calls me back over. A new target's all the way out in the lane, and he had written on it, like flipped it around and wrote, "Will you marry me?" with a yes and a target and a no and a target, and then told me to concentrate. And so I hit the mark, and obviously said yes. And we were engaged for about a year. About a year. Got married last year on French Independence Day. And then just a couple weeks ago, took our honeymoon.
Yeah.
And he took me to Italy.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. That's awesome. Awesome. So now, how did you manifest her, Shan?
Well, you know, it's interesting.
I know you had to be part of this because you had to like somehow get her to come in when she did, and then also to be patient enough to wait for her to catch up. So, yeah.
You know, I know that, you know, when you chase cats, it doesn't work. You know, it works with dogs, but not cats. And so when you chase, they run. So, and what was intriguing was that I wanted to be with her, but I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. And I moved here to Lexington, Kentucky, and I was getting out of a long-term relationship myself. I was actually married. And after selling my practice out east, up in the Northeast, I came down here. I found a location. I got it fully furnished. I got the building all painted and clean and ready to go. Just a few weeks after I opened, my wife filed for divorce. I was like, "What do you mean you're filing for divorce? Like, this is all going to work out amazing. What are you talking about?" Like, with a block to go and a 10-mile run before the finish line, she's like, "I quit." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So that was kind of devastating. And a couple months go by, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm starting to kind of feel somewhat normal after a while. Because at first, like 4 or 5 weeks, I didn't want to even get out of bed, didn't want to go out in the outdoors, didn't want to work out, didn't want to go see patients. I didn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but you weren't expecting this at all, right? This was not even in.
No.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when you don't search for something, you find it. And I was just going to I've been in practice this month, June 18th, marks 15 years since I graduated from Palmer.
Cool.
So, I had to, and that's great, but I had to start my whole life over again because you move to a different state. None of that really matters. You have to build a patient base. So I was out in the community trying to spread the word, do lectures and screenings and all that good stuff. And I went to her store, and that's when I saw her. And when I first walked in, I was just like, oh my God, I'm in trouble, because it was just to try to describe the feeling that I felt just without even saying a word. Just when I first saw her, it's an impossibility to minimize the significance of how I felt by trying to put it into the English language. It's just, you cannot do it. And very early on, I knew, like, this is someone that I was meant to see, meant to connect with, meant to love, meant to take care of, meant to be partner with, like right away. And good things come to those who wait, though. Like, I'm a type A driven guy. Like, if there's something I want, I go work hard and I go get it. But and that's great, but sometimes that doesn't work. You have to be patient.
Right.
And I had to be a year patient. We had to wait for about 12 months before the universe kind of brought us back together. And it was in perfect sync at that moment.
Right, which means it was timing. So as far as that goes, how did you know, and how did this link in? I mean, you knew something was different about it compared to everything else, but how did the concept and the idea of twin flames start to waken up to that part of it?
Oh, I'll tell the story about it. But okay, so during this first month of our dating, and there's something else that I want to add in, but just a little backtracking. Sorry, it's always exciting and hard to keep your thoughts together. But so during that first month of our dating, we were together for like maybe 3 weeks, and I had no idea when his birthday was. It just never came up. And but prior to my asking him what I was seeing, I noticed I was seeing this every day, and I never noticed this number before. I was seeing 1111 every single day. I was noticing it everywhere. And I think we were sitting on the couch at the other apartment, and I brought up, was like, because it was just overwhelming. I had to say something about how often I was seeing this number. And then somehow the conversation evolved into birthdays, and I asked him when his birthday was, and he, again, with his smirk, he goes, "It's 11/11."
You probably thought he was joking, right?
Oh no, I knew he was
okay.
Dead serious. But like the thing, I wish that we had a list of all of the synchronicities that
Too many to count.
It was just every day there was something profound and like perplexing that was happening, that where we were completely synced up and aligned with each other, and it was just like, yes, you're in the right place, you are with the right person. And I mean, it was wild how often little things like this were happening. And do you have some more examples?
Well, we'd be in the truck driving, and we would talk about going to her parents' house, for example, and the address for her parents' house is 1137. It happens to be one of her favorite numbers, right? And we'd look at the clock to see what time it was, so we knew how long it took to get to her parents' house. And it was 11:37 at the clock, right? Or we would just have a story that we both, I would start the beginning of the story. She knew where I was going. We'd look at the clock, and it would be 11:11, right? Things like that, that it just, as a person who studied anatomy and physiology and biomechanics and stuff like, and I want to know the answer and how to figure things out.
Well, that's logic, right?
But it would happen day in and day out.
You know that you can't make it up, and it's really waking you up and getting that your attention, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you definitely couldn't make this stuff up.
So is that what brought, because 1111 associated with twin flames, so is like, how did you come across the term twin flame and realize you were twin flames?
Well, it's interesting with some work that we were doing with this group of people here in town. There's, Michelle, and she and I were sitting outside in the backyard, and she was asking me question after question after question. And she'd ask a question, and I would know the answer, and she'd flip over a card, and it was the exact answer that I was giving. And she was talking a lot of times about my relationship with Fonta, and just it was so in sync, and it just clicked at that moment. I was like, oh my God, this is really, really powerful. What is happening here? When you are having a conversation with someone and you know where they're going before they even finish the sentence, and consistently you guys are on the same page.
So you're wakening up to that higher consciousness and that programming and that blueprint of this higher wisdom that we as twin flames like bring in to manifest like destiny and create missions and go forward to help other people along our path. That's basically like by you guys coming together, you activate each other, which is what twin flames do, to awaken that consciousness, unlock that blueprint, align with our own personal truth, stand in our power, and then the power of two becomes greater than one, and the mission becomes to go help others walk a similar path or help them heal. So mostly, you know, you guys are both in the healing arts, which a lot of twin flames are, at least in some form or fashion. So basically, based on what you're saying, you were already getting these signs and the synchronicities that were catching your attention, and then you manifest around you the people, the experiences, the things that you need in that vibration that come into this telepathy or in this sync with you on this certain plane that like you really don't even need words. You start to understand the language of just another language, really, like a higher language, a higher frequency. And it's like you don't even know where this programming came from because it's not in your conscious memory that you have it. It's just a subconscious memory we were programmed with. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when it comes to like all of this, those signs and synchronicities are basically coming through to teach us a language, to help encode us with unlocking those codes and memories, but then also to teach us to trust and follow things so we can build an internal GPS system that gives us a connection as we awaken that aligns with our awakening, that gives us that aha moment to be like the light switch goes on of like, wow, like you just said, this is more powerful than I ever could have thought, ever could have believed, because I just woke up to something, or I'm feeling this, or I'm knowing this, but I don't even know where it's coming from, right? That's kind of what you're saying. It's internal inside of you, and it just clicks on when you need it, when you're ready for it, right?
Yeah. So, I think another really important piece for anyone that is, for all the people that are doing the work to find their person, to find their twin flame, it's like, yes, do the internal work and get really, really clear on what you want. So in 2016, when Shan and I first met, what I knew and what I told myself and what I repeated every day was that I was unavailable. And so it was really interesting. Shan showed up into my radar because he had to at some point, but every other man that kept popping up was a man that was unavailable trying to have a relationship with me. So I was just putting up, like, I was a no to everything. And just clustering him in with, okay, so he's getting a divorce, like, you know, like unavailable. So it was, I think it may have been just a month prior to that decision that I made to, okay, now I'm leaving this current job, I'm going to do my own thing. And then Shan comes into my radar. I'm with my mom, and we are at a conference, and we're at a hotel sitting at the bar. And she's like, okay, seriously, girl, enough with all of these unavailable men. Like, let's sit down, let's write it out. I want you to get clear on what it is that you are looking for, what you're asking for, which is something that I hadn't done in a while. I had it just pulled up. Okay. Oh boy. So I got clear on my list. I was going to read it right off the napkin, but it's going to take too long. But essentially, this was the first time that I got clear with myself, and I said that I wanted someone that was kind, that was strong, that helped other people, that recognized that being on a team, there's always a stronger player, and I needed him to be the stronger player. I couldn't carry the weight like I had before. I wanted my partner to recognize my my gifts and want to support me in building on those. In terms of the ways that, like, getting specific on how he looked, I said that, like, rich brown, like hazily eyes, maybe some reddish hair, my height, maybe a little taller, a strong jawline and a strong nose, or like a proud nose, I think is the language that I use. And these are all very, like, clear features of Shan. I'd written this out, completely forgot about it. But my mom sent me a picture of it I think this was in the first month of our dating, and I'm reading it on my cell phone, and I look up and Shan's like standing right in front of me. I was like, oh my God. Like, all the things, I'm missing some important things on there, but it doesn't matter. Everything on there was him. And in that moment, like, I understood what I had done and how important that list was, because it's like, what that list did was made me aware. I was able to see him where I didn't before, because all I was focusing on was the fact that was being unavailable. So all I could see was unavailable individuals. But when I wrote down what I was available for, then suddenly I could recognize him when he was in front of me.
Wow.
And so that is such
super clear on what it is you desire.
Yeah.
What it is you deserve, because everything you just stated was things that were deserving of that support, that you were going to be open to receiving that, which is also why you, even though you were putting up the unavailable, you were unavailable for the old crap. That's what you were unavailable for, right? So that was holding you in a place of not necessarily like separation for maybe what you want, but separation knowing what you don't want, right? Mm-hmm. So what people tend to do is, like, especially a lot of twin flames out there, they're focusing on what's missing, right?
Right.
From what you're saying here, I know that you are clarifying what you didn't want very clearly, but you weren't even ready. So it's not like you were going about your business here thinking anything was missing, because you wanted to work on you, right?
Exactly.
And create the empowerment and the self-love within you, so that you knew that your goal was to become more worthy and more willing to receive divine love, or more unconditional love, or more of a healthy relationship, right?
Absolutely. Because prior to learning how to care for myself and love myself to the level in which I needed to reach, I would never have been able to receive the kind of love that he has to give. It would have been, it would have been,
you would have been open to receiving it.
Intimidating. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to receive it, because it wouldn't have felt like I was worthy of it, or that it belonged to me. And yeah, so.
Can you share with people about that then? Because so many people are out there, and see, you're kind of in some ways coming in where we talk about the divine masculine, that they're the runner, right? And they're running, but yet a lot of the divine masculine are now focusing on themselves, but they don't normally feel worthy of the love that maybe the divine feminine can give. But you're taking a stance, just like I've seen a lot of divine masculine do, to say, I don't know about a relationship, but I'm tired of all the past, and now I want to focus on me. So can you just share just a little bit about basically some of the personal things, not in detail personal parts, but what you had to specifically work on to get yourself from basically unworthy to worthy? And that's for you, Fonta.
So the things that I had to do to work on to get myself from unworthy to worthy.
Yes.
Well, I had to do a lot of deconstructing. And all of the things that I had, the house of cards that I had built around myself to protect myself, all that had to come down. And I had to start asking for help. I had to surround myself with people who knew they were worthy, and people that weren't afraid to do the work and get in there deep. And that was the first step, was working on healing my emotional body, and working on healing the thoughts that were associated with all of that. And that probably, in terms of the way that I was talking to myself or witnessing myself, that was the longest the longest evolution of all of it. But I was I had the space, I created the space to be completely dedicated to my growth and my healing and my evolution. I didn't want any part of what I had lived or become anymore. Like I was so done with it. Nothing was going to get in my way of becoming the person that I was destined to be. And so all I did all of the time, I was working on my spirituality, I was working on healing my body, I was working on changing my mindset, and I was not afraid to reach out and talk to someone that I felt safe with, that I knew I could trust, and I knew that was available to support me in the way that I understood. So I made a promise to myself that that I was never going to abandon myself again. Mm-hmm. And because that became my fundamental choice, everything else, every other decision made from that point was just second nature, because it had to happen for my survival. What got me out of the relationship that I was in before was feeling my body dying. And so it was like, for my survival, I have to do these things. And it became number one.
Mm-hmm. So you took care of you, and yes, wow. I understand that. I went through a similar relationship in my last relationship. So I totally get that. It's nothing worse than being with somebody and being alone anyway. And it didn't matter what the rest of my life looked like, because I was already dying inside. And also I ended up physically having a lot of physical health challenges, down to uterine cancer, out of that relationship myself. So I get that, what you just said, totally. That's some deep stuff. You know, you hit the bottom and there's nowhere left but you to go, right? Mm-hmm. So how about you, Shan? Did you have anything that was did you feel like you were pretty ready at that point, by the time your ex and you, or did you already gotten your divorce, or did you still have to do some personal work as Fonta did in that year that, you guys kind of had met before you came into basically your union?
Yeah, I went back to finally taking care of myself. I got into some really, really good physical conditioning. Initially, I was not, but leading up to and right before and right at the beginning of a relationship, I was in very, very good shape, because I felt like, why should I be the victim of a bad situation? Because, no one wants to be surrounded by someone who looks at themselves as a victim. You have to, in order to show up for others, you have to show up. It's like the flight attendant says, if the oxygen mask falls down, you can put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help someone else. There's no way I was going to be in a healthy relationship, even with the absolute perfect match twin flame. Okay. If I couldn't show up in a healthy way, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, I was not showing up at my best. Mm-hmm. And so I started to, I love to I do archery. I was shooting the bow a lot. I was lifting weights. I was running. I was building a patient base, and going back to providing value for other people and serving my fellow citizen here in town, and trying to give the best quality chiropractic care that I could. Only at that point did I finally just, I was able to present myself in a way that resonated with her, and vice versa. So when two people come together, the way it works without having to work at it is when you show up the best that you can.
Yeah.
So it was just.
You create the ultimate relationship with yourself so that you can have the ultimate relationship with your other half, basically. And you will not meet on that same plane vibration, ready to come in and unite, until you both came into alignment with yourselves.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Now you guys came in a little early, but that was to get everything kind of on the higher plane set, to lay some groundwork energetically that was already working at you individually to keep you bound together through this connection, which leads me into the bubble phase. A lot of times the couples will come together, they create this instant bubble phase that says, I feel this burst of love, and you're my soulmate, we're going to be together for life. And then all of a sudden it creates this deep, dark shadow and fear that sends one or both of them into this fear mode, because it says, I got changes to make, I got challenges to face, Now I'm kind of like, it's pulling these things out of me. Now I better go take care of myself. And that pulls you into that separation, which it sounds like you guys did on some level, which is that push, pull, purge. But can you describe maybe or tell the audience a little bit about that? Because I've gotten that question before about what's it like being in that bubble phase or in, say, that runner chaser phase. Would you have anything to share with people so they understand that from a he said, she said kind of perspective versus just reading or hearing the information out there about what that means? Do you have any suggestions you would, or recommendations for people on that?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. When you're in it and you're just raw and exposed and delicate and fragile, even though you live a facade or you pretend like things are okay and you're like, okay, I'm ready, and you're not, and you think you are, or you've convinced yourself that you are, but then someone sees and looks at you from the outside perspective looking in, and she was able to see that. She's been working on herself for a while prior to us even meeting, so she had a different perspective on my emotional and physical and spiritual health than I did myself, because I was so raw. And it's sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and put things on pause and go back to working on yourself first before you expose yourself and your inner feelings and what makes you tick to another human being. You have to work on yourself first before you even cross that bridge.
Yeah.
And also, but the ways that has shown up, that bubble phase, that runner phase, a big part of, like, as I mentioned before, our timeline, our growth has we're moving at such an accelerated pace. And all of these different things have come up, like different parts of maybe like just inner shadow work, or, just the things of two big energies merging together.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's intense in itself, right?
Right. And so I have so much gratitude to give so much thanks and credit for the community that we're a part of, that it's so rich. We're so rich with wonderful spiritual healers and guides here. And we have taken full advantage of their wisdom and care. And that has facilitated our growth and our speed. That's what's made it so that we can keep moving at this pace and continue to rise together. Mm-hmm. Without that, it would have been very difficult.
Right. And so basically what you're saying, you did enough inner work to come into the empowerment within your own selves as two individual, very strong people that was healthy enough to where when you came together, you actually got to bypass some of that propelling or repelling, because you were already done enough to be able to pull you together, because now the power of your healing together becomes more powerful together than apart.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So now, now you're coming from a place that it's more of a pull than a push. And so I'm sure like every couple would have, you have things to work through, because that you don't get out of that just because you're twin flames. That if anything, it makes you, bring out the best, bring out the worst, going to be your best friend, but definitely could have a knockdown, drag out just because it's that kind of intense energy, right?
Right.
But could you just quickly, before we kind of close out here, share if you guys use that mirroring effect, like do you see each other in each other? Do you see your weaknesses and like your interactions together? Can you share anything about that? Because you understand the mirroring effect, right?
Sure.
But what you see in the other person is really the reflection of yourself. And sometimes we don't want to see that part of ourselves. So it makes us want to pull back, or it makes it very intense to work through. How do you guys work through that? Because I know you still have it.
Well, for the way that I think the fact that we have an understanding of what that is, like an awareness of that, and it's something that I have worked with other people in some of the work that I do. So while sometimes it's not easy, and the conversation doesn't go as smoothly as it could, we have the awareness and we have the ability to navigate it in a way where we can learn and we can listen.
Willing to take ownership for your part in the duality, the contrast or the unit, right?
And fortunately, Sean's the type of man that doesn't, we're both fiery signs. I'm a Leo.
Okay, so am I. When's your birthday?
July 31st.
Okay, I'm 27th, so we're right there, yeah.
So,
Catwoman. No wonder you called her a Catwoman.
Yeah.
Woman with cats.
Yeah, I've got some strong cat energy. But fortunately, Sean is so patient with me that his desire is stronger than his desire to come into alignment and have understanding is stronger than wanting to like throw a flame back. And so, I'll get to have my Leo spark, and he doesn't punish me for it because we both just want to love each other. But we're these, spiritual creatures having a very human experience, and no one came with an instruction manual. So there's a lot of grace in this relationship. Thank God.
Well, you guys just glow. And I told you this before we started, but, you were talking about the nose and the look, you guys got the same exact nose. Like, that's how a lot of twins do. They look so much down to like eye color, nose. It can either be look so much alike or totally contrast. It doesn't have to be. It can also bring in those polar contrasts. But wow, I want to just thank you both for showing up to share your message. And so what I would ask you now, if there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, they're not fully getting this concept and the idea of taking care of themselves to be able to manifest, because, the topic we're talking about here is, I want to recap this, is that there is no separation because the separation is only inside of you. And that when you come out from a codependent place, a lack of love, a lack of worth, and a lack of deserving and being good enough, then basically you're never getting to the vibration it takes to come into alignment with yourself and much less manifest what it is that you want. So we're talking about doing this from a place of manifest. So the key in that is that if you want to manifest, then I'm even teaching people to lose the label also, because that says this could be a hard journey. See, I feel like just because you guys didn't even exactly know that label, you didn't even have plagued on your forehead, you're not going to make it because you're a twin flame. You could curse. Nope. Next. Like you didn't have that twin flame flag. I've never even said that before, but that's why I'm teaching people to lose the label and to go for their highest divine partner, their highest vibrational match. Mm-hmm. And you will attract and manifest from that place of worthiness of who you are, what you desire, what you love. And I think it is important, really quick, to say something else here. And this is what you did, Fonta. You have to know what you want in that person and relationship and be very clear on it. And then therefore what shows up that doesn't support that, you're very clear on knowing that's not part of your vibration. So therefore next, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, this has been a really wonderful part of my journey, is with each layer of becoming more clear on what kind of life I want to create for myself, I would notice more of little bits of that. It's like, wasn't exactly hitting the mark, but it's like, look what's starting to show up. It's like, this is what I'm cultivating, manifesting, and calling in. And this is what is starting to match me because I'm elevating my own vibration day by day by day. And playing with that, witnessing that was so cool.
Because you get to develop your trust meter that says you can trust what you're doing is working because you're seeing the pieces come, right? Yeah.
I knew that she was the person I needed to be with right
But
away.
the day you walked in that store, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you can never want to be like, I knew I wanted to be the best version of myself because of her. So she makes me feel like, she makes me want to be a better man, right? Like, when I started to feel like that, then I knew. I was like, oh boy, I have never had those kind of feelings, very specific. When there was a clarity. It was like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is when I want to do it by, and I want to do it for myself so I can better show up for her. But she evoked those feelings. She pulled that out of me, and that's one of the ways that I really knew. I was like, oh boy, yeah.
Wow. I think it's just absolutely beautiful, and I'm just thrilled. And I don't know if you're familiar with the twin flame waves, but just to clarify for everyone that you guys are coming into the third wave twins here, which don't have as much karma to clear as far as in between them and creating this space. But you guys are coming in, I'm just going to say this because I don't even know if you guys know this, and I'll make sure to link the video for everyone in case you watched it, the 3 waves of twin flames, because a lot of people think that it's only one template and, oh, they didn't have all those troubles, so they can't be twin flames. No, that's not the case, because first of all, even though there's some similarities in a twin flame journey, each dynamic has its own blueprint, its own way to manifest and handle how that dynamic's going to play out. And a lot of it is dependent upon what you choose to think and believe and what you co-create. Because so many people, like, this is just coming through to say, so many people, and this is like, oh, well, the signs are showing me this, so it must be that, and oh, it's not going to happen, and you just give fade away. Well, what do you desire? What do you want? This is your life, and you're co-creating. You're going to choose you don't want it this time? Are you going to choose that you don't want to experience love? And of course, I don't think you'll get this, Sean. No bullseye here exactly, because then you're limiting your options, which it doesn't sound like you guys did. You just knew what you wanted, and then that's what opened up everything else to bring you together. But to be able to, do that from a space of like clarity, I think will really help you for sure, helping you guys, but same with other people. So, but when it comes to the waves, the first waves came in and really were cutting down some trees, no path, making a little path. And the second wavers come through and widen this path. And then the third wavers are coming in and they're basically kind of opening that door and closing the door and anchoring the love and coming into unions, and then it's kind of going in reverse from there as far as now, then bringing second wavers and then first wavers in reverse. So that's the other thing I would tell people, it's also dependent on what you chose in your contract up there, because this isn't all about the relationship. It's about the individual self. But we also, I got to remind everybody here, we came here to template and break down the patriarchs of relationships the way that they have been in the past. And we're recreating and re-clarifying and redefining what love means. Mm-hmm. So depending upon what we chose and what part of that is for our own path and our own journey to teach is also a little dependent on how you chose to do this the long way or the quicker way. And that is just knowing for everybody out there, there is these ways. But the really cool thing is, the universe has shifted its timeline. We've done enough of this raising the consciousness to tip the scale of the universal collective consciousness. So now our job is done, and we don't have to stay in that lower vibrational energy that's pulling us down and preventing us from being our best versions of ourselves and connecting our true self and manifesting our destiny. Now the universe is supporting us, the vibration is there, and we don't have to stay in that old paradigm, those old templates and our old belief system anymore, even as twin flames. Mm-hmm. So now's the time to get really clear on what it is you want so you can go out and manifest it just like these two have. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words or anything you would share with somebody? I kind of meant to say this earlier. As far as that's out there in pain, that, like, what would be a final message you would recommend to them to be able to get out of pain and get into love?
Oh, wow, to get out of pain and to get into love. Well, I think the first step of that is locating where you are. And while it might not be where you want to go, locate where you are, recognize where you want to go, but embrace your starting point in this moment, because that's where you're going to be able to cultivate actual, real, like, sustainable change for your life. Is loving yourself in all of your parts and all of the ways that you feel broken or hurt, loving yourself in every stage of that so that you can keep evolving into something more powerful.
Yeah, and to me that says, and that self-love of that says that you're honoring, accepting where you're at versus beating yourself up and sabotaging because you're not where you think you should be. Is that kind of what you just said?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd add that, just you make sure that you heal yourself first before you go out, and don't be so married to the concept of trying to seek out what you think is going to be the best for you. Just work on making yourself be the best, strongest version of yourself, so that when the person that you're supposed to be with shows up in your orbit, that you resonate at the correct frequency.
Totally.
Yeah.
You guys got it. Mwah! Thank you so much for showing up.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank you.
So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed the glow that these two have brought to us to share. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the shine, and may you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.